Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Good to be here.
Today, we're tackling a question I know a lot of you might be asking. Is Grab a good time to buy now?
It's definitely a hot topic, Grab being such a major player in Southeast Asia.
Exactly. So we've gathered a whole stack of sources, articles, research, our own notes, all focused on Grab, that dominant super app. We're going to extract the key insights for you.
Our mission really is to break down the complexities, right? Look at the financials, the market position, the future outlook.
And give you a clear, informed perspective. Before we jump in, though, if you're finding value in these discussions, please do consider subscribing, maybe liking this, leaving a comment.
Yeah, it genuinely helps us bring more of this content your way.
And if there's a specific company you'd like us to look into for future analysis, just pop it in the comments below. You could also consider buying us a coffee to support the work we do here.
We always appreciate that.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's unpack these sources and start right at the core. Grab's fundamentals. What are the numbers telling us about its current health and its business model?
Okay, so first up, revenue. The sources highlight about $3.07 billion over the trailing 12 months. That's, the past year's performance.
Right, $3.07 billion. And net income.
That's where it gets interesting, only $111 million.
Okay, so quite a difference there. What about margins?
Gross margin looks pretty decent, 41.02%, but the net profit margin is much slimmer, only 3.61%.
Wow, okay. 3.6 cents profit for every dollar earned. That's razor thin.
It is. It really signals that profitability is, it's still very much in its early days for Grab.
So they're clearly prioritizing growth, pouring money back into expansion.
Absolutely. It's a growth machine right now, not really a profit machine yet. They're betting big on future scale. The EPS, earnings per share, reflects that too, just 0.027, very low, with only modest growth expected next quarter.
And what about financial health? Debt, liquidity, any red flags there?
Actually, things look a bit better on that front. The debt-to-equity ratio is around 30.1%, which is, moderate leverage, not too worrying.
Right.
And the overall assessment from the sources is that its financial health is actually above average.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
Mainly because they have a really cash-rich balance sheet and pretty stable cash flows. That's what's supporting all this expansion. So despite the thin margins, no major red flags on debt or liquidity were found. Seems like a fairly sound footing.
Right. And then there's the competitive side.
Yeah.
They are the dominant super app in Southeast Asia, aren't they?
They really are. Leading positions in ride-hailing, food delivery, digital payments. It's quite the ecosystem.
And that deep ecosystem, plus the regional focus, that must give them some serious advantages, those competitive modes people talk about.
Definitely. It makes it hard for competitors to just come in and steal market share or copy what they do. Plus, you've got the ongoing fintech expansion, digital banking, payments that could unlock huge long-term value.
Okay, so a strong position, sound financials despite low current profit. But with those thin margins, what's maybe the biggest risk you see baked into their fundamental strategy right now? How could that play out?
That's a crucial question. And I think what's fascinating here is how these numbers really paint this picture of a company that's consciously choosing strategic growth over immediate high profitability.
Right.
That moderate leverage and the strong cash position. That provides a vital layer of stability. You absolutely need that when you're reinvesting so heavily back into the business.
It's like building that foundation you mentioned.
Exactly. Like building a massive skyscraper, but you're still working hard on the foundations. It's incredibly ambitious, but they seem to have a solid base to build on.
And the super app model itself.
That's the real strength. It's not just one service. It's integrating all these essential things, rides, food, payments, into one platform. That's the multi-layered defense system. It creates stickiness.
It makes them hard to displace.
Very hard. And you combine that with the potential in fintech in a region like Southeast Asia that's growing so fast.
Yeah.
You see the massive scope they're aiming for.
But the risk, going back to the margins.
The risk is precisely that thinness. Any misstep, any slowdown in growth could really hurt that delicate path they're trying to walk towards sustained profitability.
So understanding these fundamentals helps you, the listener, kind of see beyond just the daily stock price fluctuations.
Absolutely. It helps you assess the underlying strength or maybe the underlying vulnerabilities of the company itself.
Okay, that makes sense. So moving from what Grab is to what it might be worth, let's talk valuation. This is where it often gets really interesting with growth stocks.
Always does.
The ratio analysis. Well, it throws up some pretty eye-opening figures. Grab's trailing 12-month PE ratio. It's at a, frankly, eye-watering 263.7.
263, yeah, that's
Sure.
high.
And even the forward PE, looking ahead, is 55.7. I mean, compare that to the average S&P 500 company, maybe low 20s. This isn't just a premium. It feels like a massive bet on the future already baked in.
It absolutely is. That's the definition of growth expectations being priced in.
And what about analyst targets? Do they reflect this optimism?
Well, the consensus range is quite wide, from maybe $5.25 up to $8 over the next year. The average target tends to fall somewhere between, say, $5.94 and $6.14.
Okay, so that suggests maybe 16% to 20% potential upside from where it is now?
Potentially, yes, but there's a big but here. Most of those models assume continued strong revenue growth, A&D. Crucially, that significant profitability expansion we talked about, it's already factored into those targets.
So the risk is high if margins don't improve as expected. The market's basically demanding they deliver on profitability now.
Precisely. They have to hit those marks. For someone listening who maybe got burned by high growth promises before, is there any way GRUB's current valuation looks genuinely undervalued, or is it really just always a bet on the future at these levels?
That's a very fair question. And it gets to the heart of growth investing, doesn't it?
It does. It raises that key question. What exactly are you paying for when you buy GRUB today?
Right.
That super high PE isn't just a number. It's a signal. It tells you the market is already anticipating massive future growth and, critically, big improvements in profit. It's like an optimistic forecast already built into the price tag.
So it's not about being cheap now. It's about hoping it creates huge value later.
Exactly. You're essentially buying a prediction that has to come true for the price to make sense long term. It's definitely a high-stakes game.
And the risk.
The inherent risk is crystal clear. When all that future success is already priced in, execution becomes everything. If GRUB stumbles, even a little bit, in delivering that growth or those margin improvements, well, the stock could face a pretty significant re-rating downwards.
So this helps you, as an investor, figure out if you're buying into reasonable expectations or something more like a hope.
Yeah. Are the expectations grounded, or is future perfection already assumed in today's price? That's the key distinction.
A vital distinction indeed. Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's look at the technical side and market sentiment. How's GRUB actually been trading lately? What's the mood?
Okay, a technical picture.
The recent price has been hovering around $5.13. Looking back over the year, the 52-week range is pretty wide, $3.08 up to $5.72. So quite a bit of movement there.
Decent volatility.
Yeah. Right now, it seems to be in a tighter range, sort of bouncing between $5.11 and $5.23.
Consolidation, maybe.
Could be. Looking at key levels, sources point to support near $4.80 and then resistance up in that $5.76 band.
Okay, levels to watch.
It is worth noting the stock has climbed substantially over the last 12 months. That's a positive for longer-term holders, right?
Definitely shows underlying strength over that period.
Now, indicators. The 50-day moving average is at $4.97. The 200-day is a bit lower at $4.78. Both currently below the price, which is generally seen as positive.
Trend confirmation, potentially.
And the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, is at 45.29. That suggests sort of neutral to maybe slightly oversold conditions, not overheated anyway.
Right, doesn't scream overbought right now.
Volatility seems moderate.
Yeah.
The beta is 0.84, so it tends to move a bit less dramatically than the overall market.
Yeah, slightly less volatile than the market average, theoretically. If the S&P moves 10%, GRUB might move about 8.4%, a bit smoother, perhaps.
And sentiment. What are the sources saying?
Generally bullish, actually. Positive trend, despite some consolidation periods. Analyst consensus is strongly leaning towards buy or strong buy.
Driven by that optimism about expansion and improving profits.
Exactly. Price targets have mostly been raised, not really seeing major downgrades recently. Also, no significant insider selling reported, and social media chatter seems pretty bullish too.
Okay, so analyst bullish, social media bullish.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting twist. The broader fear and greed index, measuring overall market sentiment, is apparently sitting at fear. How do we square that? Is there a disconnect?
That is a fascinating discrepancy, and I think it points to the complexity of market psychology, doesn't it? If you zoom out, it suggests this sort of dynamic tension. You've got specific optimism around GRUB's story, but it's happening against a backdrop of broader market caution or fear.
So the technicals, the SMAs, the RSI, they can give you clues for short-term moves or potential entry points.
They can, yeah. They give you a feel for the immediate currents, the momentum.
But then you layer on this contrast.
Mm.
Bullish analysts for Grab, fearful overall market.
Right. And it really encourages you to think critically. Are Grab investors focused purely on the company's long-term potential, ignoring the broader noise? Or are some people swayed by the general market mood? It shows not everyone is reading from the same script.
So these insights help you understand not just the stock's momentum,
Yeah.
but also how wider market feelings might be pulling it one way or another.
Exactly. It helps you form your own view instead of just, following the herd, whether that herd is bullish on Grab or fearful about the market.
That's a really important point, acknowledging those different forces.
Yeah.
Okay, no investment picture is complete without looking ahead. What's coming up? What could go wrong? Let's talk catalysts and risks.
Crucial part of the analysis.
Short term, I guess all eyes are on the next earnings report. That's July 31st, 2025.
Absolutely. That'll be good.
And the focus there will be revenue growth, obviously, but maybe even more so on those profit margins we keep coming back to.
Definitely. Any sign of margin improvement will be closely watched. Also, any news on partnerships or maybe new fintech product launches could definitely move the needle short term.
And longer term catalysts. What should people keep an eye on?
Continued fintech expansion is the big one. Digital banking, payments that holds massive potential. Also, watch for any potential M&A activity in Southeast Asia. As the market evolves, they might look to acquire or merge.
Right, consolidation.
Yeah. And then, of course, the broader stuff, regulatory changes across the region, macroeconomic shifts, those will always impact a platform like Grab.
Okay, now the flip side, risks.
Hmm.
What are the big ones specific to Grab?
Well, number one has to be that high valuation we discussed. If growth even just starts to slow down, those multiples leave a lot of room for downside.
Makes sense.
Also, the low net margins mean execution is critical. Any missteps, any fumbles could really hit profitability hard. There's not much of a safety net there.
Like walking a tightrope.
Pretty much.
Oh.
And you always have regulatory risk in these fast-changing Southeast Asian markets. Rules can change quickly.
And beyond Grab itself, market and sector risks.
Sure, the whole tech sector can be volatile, so Grab gets pulled around by that. Competition is always a factor. Other regional super apps, maybe even global players trying to get a piece of the pie. And then you've got the macro cycles, economic slowdowns, and especially foreign exchange instability in the countries where they operate. That can definitely impact reported earnings.
Okay, so it really highlights that balance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Huge opportunity, but also significant hurdles.
It really does. They're in this high growth region, which is exciting, but those low margins make them vulnerable. Vulnerable to execution mistakes, vulnerable to regulatory shifts. They just have less room for error than bigger, more established companies.
So that upcoming earnings report on July 31st isn't just numbers, it's a real test.
It's a key short-term test, absolutely. Investors need to see tangible proof that the strategy is working, that profitability is actually improving. They'll be watching that bottom line very closely.
So understanding all these factors helps you, the listener, weigh the potential rewards against those potential downsides. Gives you a clear view of both the promise and the peril.
Exactly. A clear-eyed view is essential before making any decision.
Okay, so after digging through all of this, what's the overall investment thesis for Grab? What's the bottom line takeaway for you, the listener?
Bringing it all together.
Based on everything we've looked at from the sources, our overall rating lands at a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay, 6.5. Middle ground, leaning positive.
Right. And the rationale is pretty straightforward. On the plus side, GRAB clearly has solid long-term potential. It's got those strong regional footholds, its financial health seems sound despite the low profits right now, and it's strategically pushing into high-value fintech areas. Those are definite strengths.
Makes sense.
However, the cautions are just as important. That valuation, as we've hammered home, is stretched. Profit margins are thin. That creates real execution risk.
The tightrope again.
Exactly. So while short-term price targets might suggest some moderate upside, it doesn't feel incredibly compelling given the stock's volatility and that premium price tag.
So what's the conclusion then? Who is it best suited for?
The conclusion really points towards GRAB being best suited for a long-term investment horizon, if you're patient.
Patience is key here.
Definitely. Tactical short-term trading. Sure, it might be viable around earnings or big news, but you need to manage that risk very carefully. Long-term holders, though, the ones willing to wait, are probably best positioned to benefit if GRAB continues to scale its platform and, crucially, starts delivering on that profitability expansion over time.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture, GRAB really represents a long-term bet on the whole Southeast Asian digital economy unfolding.
A bet on digitization in a huge growing region.
Precisely, and that means patience is absolutely vital for investors here.
Mhm.
The high growth is there, you can see it, but those thin margins mean the full value might take quite a while to materialize.
So your own investment horizon becomes critical.
Totally. Are you looking for quick gains, or are you really in it for the long haul to see that super app vision fully play out? Your answer to that really determines if GRAB fits your personal investment style.
Well said. So we've looked at DRAB from hopefully every useful angle: fundamentals, valuation, technicals, the risks, the catalysts. We hope this analysis, drawing on all those sources, has given you a clearer picture of whether DRAB might fit into your own investment strategy.
Hopefully provided some food for thought.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. As DRAB keeps expanding that super app ecosystem, what specific part of its business, maybe digital payments, maybe the delivery network, maybe how ride-hailing evolves, what do you think will be the main driver of its next big growth phase? Or perhaps what poses its biggest challenge in the years ahead?
Interesting question to ponder.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us for this analysis today. We genuinely love hearing your thoughts, so please do leave a comment below with your takeaways, or perhaps suggest what company you'd like us to look at next.
Yeah, let us know.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more informed insights like this. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.